Let's get this meeting started. All the members are here, so if the minutes will reflect that situation. Public comment, we ask anyone in the audience wants to speak, and I see no one that is here to do that, so let the record show that. Item C is election of chair and vice chair for the Debt Management Commission. I'll be very happy to let someone else do this if you want. But the nominations, as a matter of fact, who's the vice chair now?
Stacy.
Stacy. Okay, congratulations, Stacy.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'd move to select Don Hadaway as chair of the Debt Management Commission.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I entertain a motion for vice chair.
Mr. Chair, I move that Stacy be appointed vice chair of the Debt Management Commission.
Second.
Okay.
Toot toot. Toot
All
toot.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have the minutes of November 7th that you all received in your packet. Unless anyone has any suggested modifications, I'll entertain a motion to approve those as prepared.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Kathleen, for your work on that. Item E is the discussion and review of the Carson School District's annual report, statement of debt management policy, plans for capital improvements. Good to see you, Dr. Stokes.
Just Mr. Hadaway, thank you. It's my pleasure, gentlemen, to be with you today. Thank you. We apologize for missing your meeting in August. Appreciate this opportunity to come back before the commission here with our CFO, Mr. Andrew Fueling. I'd like to turn the balance of the time over to him.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Stokes. So I we'll be reviewing our debt management policy and capital improvement plan a little bit as kind of the primary items here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions as we're walking through this or after we're done. I do have a PowerPoint. It's I'm not exceptionally techy, but it's my favorite crutch during presentations, so hopefully it'll help with some of the numbers and just kind of visualizing some of the things as we're walking through it. And a lot of these are taken directly from the debt management policy plan. Oh, thank you. So looking at the numbers of issues that we currently have out, a good balance between school improvement and refunding bonds. We've had quite a few refunding bonds recently. And actually, this is obviously as of June 30, 2017. We recently just had another refunding bond that happened right before the end of the year. If you're aware, with the changes at the federal level, with tax law, advance refundings no longer as easy to do or legal in some ways. So the tax benefits aren't there for investors. So we kind of rushed through refunding at the end, but the purpose of that was to help us do a new construction bond in a couple years, a little bit earlier than we otherwise would have been able to. So that was kind of the intent. So you'll notice that towards the bottom of that list, the last school improvement bond, in February, we issued $15 million and actually got a $2 million premium, which was a nice bonus for us to take care of some much needed, a little bit of expansion, hopefully ultimately removing all the portable buildings in our district and replacing them with brick and mortar across the district, which has been a long-standing goal of the district and community. So that hopefully will be complete by, I think the goal right now is December, by winter break of this coming next school year. So that's construction on Fremont and Mark Twain, and I'll talk about this a little bit later. That'll be coming at the end of the year. Also, other obligations. So we have the installment purchase agreement, like the city. We went through the process with the Energy Services ESCO company to help us identify areas we could save energy and be more efficient overall within our operations. And so as a part of that, we're obligated for payments from the savings to our general fund from those activities. Those are almost complete except for some small work left at Carson Middle School. I wasn't sure exactly what to talk about here, so I just added some things related to debt. So our current levy, we have a 75-cent operating levy by statute, but our debt levy is 43 cents. I add this into my budget hearing presentations with the school district, and I think it's kind of a neat chart, so I threw this in here for you. But it's the last 40-plus years of tax rates from the school district. You can see just historically what has happened over time. So we're obviously far less than anywhere we used to be before 1980. You can see the impact of the kind of the taxpayer revolt back during that time period. Back in 1983, the state was having a hard time coming up with funding for education, so they increased our local operational levy to help the state out. But otherwise, things have been pretty stable. You do see a big bump in our debt service rate in around 92. That was when Carson High School went from 2 buildings to 1 in Senator Square as that common link piece if you've been inside the high school. Also funded that year was the building of Mark Twain and Fremont elementary schools, which are the 2 primary construction projects we have going now. At that time, each one of those schools was built for $4 million. Currently, we are going to be adding about 6 to 7 classrooms on each at a cost of $4 million. So it's interesting. Yeah, yeah, the construction costs have been just outrageous. It's interesting, I looked at $4 million in 1992 to build a school, and if you put that against the inflation rate over time, in present day numbers, that becomes about $7 million. That's the equivalent. Well, Washoe's building new elementary schools for like $30 million. So to show that the cost increases in construction have just outstripped general inflation overall. So it's something that they very publicly have battled with, and we are actively looking to continue to provide appropriate facilities for our students and try to get them out of portables as much as possible. This just shows, and I don't have 2 years of data from 11 and 12, but I had a couple years past, but just the overall countywide, citywide, whatever it is, just the overall debt or the tax levy across and how that breaks up. So the school districts are the ones here in the bottom, so we're fairly steady. It's fairly steady over time. So by statute, we are required to keep 50% of our next year's payments, obligations for debt in our ending fund balance. We are currently at 59%, a little less than, depending on how you look at it, but we're well over the 50% requirement, so we're okay there for coverage. And then within our debt management plan is the capital improvement plan. It is not laid out very, I don't know, it's kind of hard to follow. So I pulled this from the actual one I submit to our trustees when we do our budget approvals. And so it's kind of hard. The colors don't come out so well in this, but just to I guess to walk you through what the debt that we do have, some of the projects we're looking at. The big outstanding one, as I mentioned, currently we're looking at bonding hopefully in fall of 2019. So it'd be the fiscal 20 school year for hopefully around $10 million or a little over to potentially start construction on a new school facility. Our elementary schools are fully taxed at the moment. We'll get a little more space out of the current construction happening at Fremont, but overall it won't add a great deal of capacity. So we need to start considering that, especially with all the construction that's going to be, residential construction that's going to be going on. We're planning some improvements at Bordewick Bray Elementary and Seeliger, which is a little further down, that will move some programs around, but increase some capacity there. Seeliger specifically, there's concern with the Schultz Ranch development happening down there to try to open up some space at that school. We're going to be moving one of our larger special ed programs from there to the new construction area at Fremont Elementary School. Carson Middle School is going to be the current arts, what do they call it? Like shop, the old shop area, metal shop, wood shops areas. That wing is going to be transformed into a science, technology, engineering, mathematics, arts wing. So there's some work that's going to go on to upgrade that with some new equipment and some things. So that's a larger project that hopefully will be finished before the end of this year. As I mentioned, Fremont Elementary will be adding a number of classrooms. Fritch, we are almost complete with a project there to connect all the buildings now together, so you don't have to go outside going between some of the buildings. Mark Twain, all the portables will likely be removed and be replaced. The expectation is all be replaced with brick and mortar, so that's a rather large project. Fremont and Mark Twain are exactly the same footprint of buildings, so that allows for some efficiencies in construction. Pioneer, all the portables there are going to be removed and replaced with brick and mortar with a pretty slick looking design, so we're excited to see how that project ends up. As I mentioned, Seeliger has some improvements to help create some space. So that's All I have for that, just two things to note. We currently have the best bond rating of school districts in the state of Nevada at a AA2 Moody's rating. We've held that for some time. As I mentioned, in December 2012, we did complete a refunding that allowed us to move our bonding timeline, the next bond, from 2020 to 2019. And that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer those for you.
The $20 million bond, is that for the two new elementary schools that you're looking at for 19 and 20? Or is that would be additional?
It would be additional. That'd be a new bond. So we just bonded for 15, and that's helping with Fremont and Mark Twain Elementary right now. The bonding in 20, that would actually be most likely for a completely new school. It wouldn't be enough to build a whole school, most likely, so we'd probably have to phase it in over time.
Okay.
But the hope is that if we can get the money in fall of 19, that by the beginning of the 21-22 school year, we would have a new building available, most likely K through 8, at least we've been talking about so far. The middle schools are starting to feel a lot of capacity pressure too. Carson High is full, but they're breathing a little bit easier than some of the other buildings right now.
Right. And those bonds, would that be under the same philosophy that you have now, where you pay off debt and then reissue the same level?
Correct.
That's good.
Correct, yeah.
And you have statutory authority to do that.
Right, through 2030, we have our rollover bond authority.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, remind me, the Moody's bond rating, put that in context. You say you're the highest in the state, but what's the context on the bond rating? Because I can never remember S&P and Moody's, et cetera.
Sure. So I actually included, it's kind of hard to see up there because of the tone, but it just says that we're judged to be of high quality and very low credit risk. So my understanding is, that if Carson City's tax base were larger, we actually could move up beyond that, but because of the size of our tax base, it probably wouldn't likely go beyond that. I actually don't know the range of the other districts in the state where they fall.
Now, put it in the context of their rating. Is that their second rating, their third rating,
Oh, okay, sorry. So AAA would be that is their best rating. So AA is a step below that. And then within that, the 2 is kind of we're in the middle of the road of the AA's, essentially. Sorry. Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Ron?
Well, let me ask John, just going forward here in just the upcoming months, is there any more advanced movement going on in the city as far as issuing building permits or developments? We know the Lampa Ranch may be coming down the line, but other than that, with existing properties?
Most of it, excuse me. You don't think I do this for a living, do you? Most of it's already in the works, and you know about it. The one over on State Street, the one behind the post office that are more townhouse oriented, et cetera. And of course, as you say, Lampa Ranch. Schultz Ranch is proceeding very quickly, but not a lot of new that we've done lately. I don't recall anything. If you can remind me, I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. So it's already in the works, but it's coming because we've got them working on all fronts. I would imagine that Schultz Ranch you were talking about for Sealinger is going to create pressure because they've been selling them like hotcakes down there. And so...
The problem or the challenge that the school district has today is that when I was involved in the city, we almost could uniformly count for every new home built that would generate so many kids, and because it was a family. Now we're transitioning into the senior population. So even though Schultz may be building a lot of homes, it'll be interesting to see how many kids will be generated out of there. So
I believe you do have some projections on that, don't you? You've talked about them before.
Correct, yeah, thank you. So I think Schultz Ranch altogether is around 400 homes. 424. We would expect with single-family homes to generate about 38 kids for every 100 homes. So you're looking at, almost 160 kids total. Now, that's spread across all grade levels. So Seeliger certainly will feel an impact. How great that is, we're not quite sure, but it's definitely a concern that we've discussed.
Don, you're right. The formation of families is different these days, let's put it that way. So not every home has a kid in it necessarily.
If there's no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report of the school district for the record.
Go ahead, Stacy. Huh? No, I'm a school board member, so I defer to you.
All right,
Sure you
I'll move to accept the Carson City School District annual report as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can you have discussion on that motion? Can you go back and have
Sure.
discussion on the motion? Okay, I think there's a comment from staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, Nancy Paulson, Deputy City Manager, and it's not necessarily to do with the school district, but I know at the last meeting we talked about some of the other entities and filing their reports with the Commission and Department of Taxation. And am I allowed to talk about that right now?
I'm sorry, I thought it was about the school district, so that's okay, you can talk about it. Let's see, what's our next action item? Okay.
Are we doing the next one?
Yeah, you can talk about it in between.
Okay, I'll call, all those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have some outstanding still?
Well, actually, I went back and looking at the NRS and then in talking to Department of Taxation and talking it over with Adriana, we decided that they weren't required to submit a schedule of indebtedness and a debt management policy because they don't issue any general obligation debt, nor do they levy a tax. So actually, and I even talked to Nick, and it may have just been something that we've been doing over the last 20 years.
This is a pretty standard report that, you're talking about school district, right?
No, I'm talking about like Carson Water Subconservancy,
Oh.
and the V&T, and the Carson City Airport, and the Culture and Tourism Authority.
I thought we received reports from them. A very,
A couple of them,
two or three page
but-
report says we have no bonds, whatever.
Right, we received a couple of them, and some of them we didn't, and then when I went back to taxation, they actually said that they're not required to submit anything, because we were going to have those other entities come before you guys, just like the school district this time, but after talking to taxation, it's not required, so.
Okay.
So just in case you're wondering why they're not here
Well, the
presenting.
two most important entities, the city and the school district,
Right,
are there.
and
so-
those are basically the entities that are required.
Okay. Well, thank you for that
Okay.
information. Okay, we have item F is the annual report from the Department of Taxation on all the governmental entities' status of taxes and overlapping debt and so forth. Anyone going to make any comments on that? Because we merely accept this report, right? Okay. It's pretty straightforward. I basically looked at the Carson City material, and it hasn't changed materially from past reports.
Yeah, it's basically what we presented in August, and we give it to the state, and then they put it into a statewide document.
Right, right. Okay, well then I will entertain a motion to accept this report for the record also.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we have a calendar here somewhere for our next meeting in August. And when did we met? We met the second, was it? Second week last year? I know it's far in advance, but is there any issue with August 14th for anybody?
No, I'd rather do it the week of a board meeting. So-
Okay, let's do it August 14th at 1:30 again.
Zero.
Sierra Room. And I will again ask for any additional public comment. Seeing none, I'll call this meeting to adjournment because we've gone way too long.